Welcome to Under the Sod. Today I will be telling the story, My Brother Can't Talk, by Barbara on Reddit.
My little brother, Aiden, was 4 when we found out he'd never be able to talk. I could tell my mom was always concerned, but the panic only really set in when Aiden turned 3. She took him to every doctor in the country, and not a single person had an answer for her. There was nothing medical about it. He just didn't talk. He never cried when he was a baby. Even when he was born, he never looked like he wanted to say anything, and he only opened his mouth when he had to eat. Aiden was shy. He would make eye contact, and he would watch you even if you weren't looking. My mom decided to homeschool Aiden until he could speak, and my dad didn't really have an opinion. Most of their time was spent studying the Bible. My mom tried teaching him basic math, science, history, but she was in no place to be teaching anything. Her whole life, she lived on a farm with her father. She didn't receive any higher education. She didn't even graduate high school. But that didn't really matter to her. As long as she served the Lord as a good Catholic woman, the rest would take care of itself. Aiden liked taking my stuff. He liked taking my records, and anything electronic. Eventually it got so bad I started keeping everything in a safe under my bed. When I asked him, he wouldn't admit to anything. He did it to my parents too, though it took them longer to figure out. Once they did, my dad put Aiden over his knee and belted him until he bled. Yet, he never let out a squeal, cry or whimper. He always took his punishment in silence. He was my little brother, so I loved him, I guess, but I was so much older. Could I really love someone I'd never talked to? Much less, someone who steals everything I buy. I didn't know what to make of Aiden. I never looked at him. Even when I knew he was looking at me. It made the smallest things really hard, to the point where it pissed me off. Why did I have to feel so uncomfortable every night at dinner? I knew it probably wasn't his fault, but it was affecting my relationship with my parents. The house was bent around the elephant every single day. Everything was about him no matter how hard we tried to move on, and it wasn't going to change. Although it had never come out of mouth, I only knew one thing: I wish my brother was gone. One Sunday at church, everyone settled in their pews, and it was pretty crowded that day. The service was long and boring, per usual. Looking at the clock made things worse. But after the service was over, Aiden handed my mum a note with a big word written in chicken scratch: confession. My mum's face was grey. She showed my dad, and he didn't make much of it. He whispered something to my mom, then took Aiden's hand and walked into a few members of the clergy at the altar. My mum told me what Dad said to her. He said there'd be a chance Aiden might talk, and I didn't know what to think. One of the ministers jovially walked Aiden to a booth. What could a 4-year-old have possibly done to warrant a confession of sin? The thought made the priest laugh as they entered the booth. The two stayed inside for a long time. After 5 minutes, I was starting to get concerned. After 10 minutes, my dad suggested pulling him out. Then after about 15 minutes, they finished. Aiden walked out of the booth, and blissfully strolled over to hug my mom's leg. Next came the priest. His face was ghost white. His miserable eyes held his tears. He was lost in his own mind. We watched as he rejoined the clergy, and I saw the men address him, but he wouldn't respond. He couldn't talk.
That is the end of this story. Please like and subscribe if you're a horror fan, and comment an idea for my next video. Have fun sleeping tonight.